Good afternoon. Thank you for being here, especially on such short notice. Good to go. I can raise my voice if I need to. There we go. Okay. Try that again. Thank you all for coming. I want to thank my colleagues in city government here behind me, Deputy Mayor Owens, Chief Buckner, Chief Mons, Corporation Counsel Kristen Smith, Neighborhood and Business Development Commissioner Michael Collins, and Code Enforcement Director Jake Dishaw. We also have our first Deputy Chief of Police, Joe Cecil, and Deputy Chief Rich Trudell here as well. They represent a team of dozens of professionals who have been working on the issues at the Skyline Apartments over the past few years. I want to begin by remembering Connie Torrey. I want to repeat my condolences and sympathies to all of the Torrey family. I had a chance to speak with Miss Torrey's niece just a little while ago. No family should have to experience what they are going through, and my heart is with them. Last Friday, I joined many of the individuals behind me and other city officials on an inspection of the Skyline. That was 2 days after the tragic murder of Miss Torrey. What I saw and what I heard will stick with me forever. What I saw was conditions that nobody should be subjected to. Human feces, needles, urine throughout the stairwells, and with multiple elevators regularly inoperable, people had no other choice than to use those stairwells and subject themselves to those inhumane conditions. When I spoke with the tenants there, I heard two things loud and clear. Number one, please hold the property owner accountable. They do not listen to us. We beg them to address our concerns and our issues, and they just ignore them. So please hold them accountable. And number two, please don't make us leave here. This used to be a nice place to live. We want to stay here, but we need your help. So today I'm announcing new and stronger enforcement actions to compel Green National to correct health and safety conditions at the Skyline complex. Among other requirements, the city's actions demand that Green National implement comprehensive security measures and correct code violations. I want to be clear. We all know the concerns at the Skyline are not new. Despite a relentless battle to hold Green National accountable, living conditions for the tenants at Skyline remain unacceptable, and that will not be tolerated. We are using new approaches to force improvements while preventing tenant disruption. We will use all of our administrative authority and take Green National back to court to ensure Skyline residents can feel safe and healthy in their homes. If Green National fails to act in a swift, comprehensive manner, the company will face additional fines, the withholding of publicly funded rent payments, and the appointment of a receiver to manage the property. The new actions are also structured to prevent disruption of tenants at the facility on James Street. This is an important point and one of the challenges we faced and are working to overcome to hold the company accountable without touching off a housing crisis. Here's how we will accomplish this. Action 1, nuisance abatement notice. The City Law Department will serve Green National with a notice of public nuisance and opportunity to abate public nuisance. The notice applies to the common areas and stairwells of the structure so that residents can remain in their living units. The notice cites 12 qualifying drug, weapons, or assault arrests at Skyline over the past 2 years. The notice compels Green National to make security upgrades to the facility, including new locking systems, 24/7 security on site, and security cameras throughout the facility. The notice will allow for new fines, receivership by the city if necessary, and also, if necessary, criminal charges to ensure compliance. Action 2, State Supreme Court petition. The city will file a petition in state Supreme Court to seek a judgment against Green National to compel the company to correct all open code violations under the New York State Property Conservation Code. This is not the first time we've taken them to court, and we're prepared to do so again. Action 3, unfit declaration. Based on the recent inspection that I described, in which we found feces, urine, and syringes in the public spaces, and subsequent return visits, including one today, where those conditions remained, the city is designating the common areas of the building as unfit for occupancy. The designation clears the path for Onondaga County to withhold rental payments for tenants made by the Department of Social Services. Under the declaration, Green National will need to clean, remove these items, and maintain clean and sanitary conditions. The new actions increase the consequences for Green National if it fails to comply, following nearly 2 years of prior code violations, fines, and court actions undertaken by the city. We will not stop until we achieve what is expected of any property manager and what residents told me they want: Green National held accountable and the chance to have a good quality of life at the Skyline Apartments. With that, I'm happy to answer questions. I don't, Chris. I don't know, Kristen, if you know off the top of your head. We are over there, but we can get back to you with that number, Chris. The purpose of the actions that I just laid out, they are our last resorts. There are no extra chances at this point. These are actions, some actions that we've taken previously, including taking them to court, as well as using the tools of the unfit declaration and the nuisance abatement notice to compel action. So that there is no more time for second, third, fourth, fifth chances. The time for change is now. I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please? So we will, for the nuisance abatement notice, we expect that will be filed by no later than tomorrow. We also will file our petition in Supreme Court, again, no later than tomorrow, Kristen, is that right? And in the unfit declaration, we expect, again, if not today, certainly by tomorrow. So all within the next 24 hours. I spoke with Troy Green from Green National at some point last week. That's the first time we had a conversation about the Skyline. I had reached out to the ownership after I was made aware of the squalid conditions that existed back in February. I spoke with their chief operating officer. Again, I had a follow-up call that I received last week. Again, expressed my grave concerns over the condition of the property and made it clear in no uncertain terms that it was not going to be tolerated. I can't say definitively if it's the most. If the chiefs can, feel free. But yeah, as I mentioned last week, this property is public nuisance #1. We track not only police calls, fire calls, codes complaints on properties across the city, and this property continually rose to the top, which is what prompted the initial actions that we took beginning in 2018. And we did see some responsiveness. The problem that we've had with this property is that it hasn't been sustained. And the actions that we're taking, that I'm announcing today, will compel them to sustain those improvements that we expect them to make. So I'll give some examples, and then again, if Chief or if Corporation Counsel wants to add, they can. Essentially, what the nuisance abatement notice allows us to do is to compel them to make the security improvements, the public safety improvements that we've been encouraging them to make for a long time now. One of the reasons we have not yet used the nuisance abatement notice process is because, as I mentioned to you, Chris, last week, typically that's a tool that we use to shutter properties, to shut them down. And it has been an effective tool for that. But knowing the unique conditions of this property and the fact that that the tenants, under the right circumstances, don't want to have to leave, we had to really look hard at the ordinance to determine what other options we had other than shuttering the property. And to the credit of Corporation Counsel, they spent a long time poring over that ordinance and identified other options that we have short of shuttering it, including the potential use of receivership and, again, criminal charges if necessary. So the chiefs, any of the chiefs, can go into greater detail on the specific safety improvements that we are compelling them to make. But I mentioned, cameras, on-site security, those things that again have been occasionally present but not consistently present at the property. I'm not. I don't want to hear about excuses. The purpose of the call from my end was to make sure that it was crystal clear that the conditions are unacceptable. The response that I got was that they would be addressed. But again, 2 days after Ms. Tourey's tragic murder, the conditions that we observed a month prior still existed, and I saw them with my own 2 eyes. Today, those same conditions exist. So I'm done with excuses. I'm done with second chances. Actions speak louder than words, and the actions that we're taking today are going to compel actions by the property owners. And if they don't, then they're not going to have that control over that property much longer.
Well, certainly the elephant in the room is a recent article written by Syracuse.com where an attorney representing a young lady that is incarcerated spoke about conversations that she's had with the DA's office. We've made significant progress in our investigation, and we expect that we will probably have a significant update sometime in the very near future. But I certainly don't want to speak out of turn while things are going on simultaneously as we're actually doing this press conference to protect the integrity of the investigation.
Kristen, do you want to speak to any potential criminal charges if you're comfortable doing that?
So the nuisance abatement ordinance provides a process where we can issue them an order to take certain security steps. If they willfully ignore those, that is considered a criminal offense under our local law, and so we would pursue charges under the nuisance abatement ordinance.
Other questions? Well, I think everyone has a different perspective. I think that people remember a time, many people remember a time living there that brought back positive memories. It was a good place to live. It was a safe place to live, and many of the people living there don't have many other options. Many don't have the privilege of being able to move. So I think they've seen what it looks like when the property owners are upholding their responsibilities. And listen, we've all had to move before. It can be disruptive, and you think about if you're living in poverty, or you are living with a disability or other challenging circumstances. That is understandably something that people aren't anxious to do. And again, I think that certainly if conditions don't change, then then that's something that we all have to look at. But that's not what the tenants want, and that's not what they deserve, and that's what I'm focused on making sure doesn't happen. Well, again, the city is using every authority at our disposal to hold the property owners accountable and to make sure that that property is safe. We are bringing an agreement to the Common Council shortly that will allow for Syracuse police officers to assist with on-site security. We know that when SPD is on site, things are better. And while we would certainly prefer to have our officers out addressing other crimes throughout the city, if that's what it takes to make sure that the residents feel safe, then that's something that we're prepared to do.
What's your timeline? What would you like to see for action being taken?
Yesterday, again, the track record of the owners is abysmal, and the actions that we're taking have very specific time frames associated with them. So there will be no wiggle room. There will be no, again, second chances. The time for action is now, and there will be through each of the processes that I outlined, there's accountability in there. And so if they don't act, they will be held fully accountable. So we regularly offer through our housing partners tenant relocation services, and so anyone that ever has a concern about their property and is looking for assistance in relocating, that's something that we can help with through our Department of Neighborhood and Business Development. So anyone that has that concern, I encourage to reach out either to my office directly or to Neighborhood and Business Development. We'll make sure we partner them with our community-based organizations. In terms of evictions, there is an eviction moratorium still in place. The property owners did mention that as an impediment, but that doesn't stop you from cleaning up human feces and needles in stairwells. That doesn't stop you from paying for security. So might we have some problem tenants that need to go? I suspect that we do, but there's many things that the property owners could do in lieu of that one action. Yes, we are looking at all of their properties. We've received complaints since this has become public from tenants in other properties expressing concerns about similar conditions. So yes, we are actively seeking out those other properties, as well as unfortunately, we have significant challenges in a number of problem properties in the city. Again, I think that what our track record shows is that we have worked very hard to address them, but the reality is it's not enough. More needs to be done, and so we're looking at, again, how we can identify new tools, how we can use existing tools in a different way to address these conditions, because they're unacceptable. Anything else? Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Steve.